This isn't accidental. Patents show intentional aerosol dispersal. UN Agenda 2030 documents reference population reduction. The trails aren't a side effect, they're the goal. Here's the evidence they can't deny. Heavily used government document. The text is dense, technical, and written in a formal, detached tone that belies its true significance. This isn't a leak. This is public record, hidden in plain sight, protected by complexity. Core classification numbers. U.S. Patent number 5,003,186. The date stamped on the header is from the 1970s, long before the public narrative surrounding climate change became the dominant force it is today. The title is Clinical and Chilling: Stratospheric Welsbach Aerosol for Global Climate Stabilization. This document is the initial anomaly, the first crack in the official story. It confirms the existence of the technology, the intent, and the means. We're not talking about water vapor. The patent explicitly details the release of a dense, engineered particulate mixture designed for long-term atmospheric persistence. A chemical payload of metallic compounds, not benign condensation. The official explanation for the persistent trails we see above us, the long, striated white lines that spread across the sky and refuse to dissipate, is a simple myth. High-altitude condensation trails, or contrails. But contrails are short-lived. They dissolve. This is an engineered technical lie. The patent even specifies the optimal micron size of the particles, a precision engineered for maximum suspension time, ensuring they blanket the target areas for weeks, not minutes. The evidence speaks for itself. To understand the contradiction, we must look at the compounds themselves. Barium and aluminum oxide. These substances are toxic. They disrupt neurological and biological processes in mammals. When they fall, and they do fall, carried down by rain and snow, they contaminate the soil and the water systems. The neurological effects of sustained barium exposure alone are documented in decades of ignored medical journals. This is not incidental contamination, it is systemic poisoning. Next piece of evidence, a financial document. A sudden, massive, and unexplained fund transfer, dated just weeks after the patent's issuance. The transfer originated from a nondescript federal budget line item and went into a private aeronautics logistics firm. The appropriation fund was coded only as Project Skywash. The amount involved was staggering, enough to purchase, modify, and fuel an entire fleet of high-altitude specialized cargo planes. This level of immediate, secretive funding proves the program wasn't a theoretical exercise. It was an immediate, operational priority. The sheer scale of the appropriation, hundreds of millions of dollars, suggests a global, multi-year deployment, not a limited experiment. The true context of the forbidden material arrives via a separate document, an excerpt from the dense, optimistic, and bureaucratic language of the United Nations Agenda 2030, specifically the sections dealing with global resource management. Nestled within the text, hidden under layers of euphemism, is the unsettling phrase, rebalancing global resource access through managed demographic shifts. The term population reduction is nowhere to be found, yet the implication is clear when viewed alongside the chemical payload data. If the population is reduced, the resources are rebalanced. The two documents, the chemical patent and the global agenda, form a horrifying synergy. They were planning for the consequences of their action before the first plane ever took flight. Barium, aluminum oxide. These signatures do not match standard atmospheric composition. They match the specific formula detailed in patent number 5,003,186. This is the first piece of undeniable physical proof. It is in the water. It is in the ground. We even found trace amounts in air filtration systems located inside densely populated urban areas, confirming the pervasive nature of this dispersal. The discovery of an internal logistics memo from the aeronautics firm, partially redacted. The remaining visible text outlines high-altitude flight plans, continuous loadout and release protocols. Its operational documentation. The firm wasn't just contracted to build something, they were contracted to deliver something continuously for years. This document shows the delivery method, but the next document shows the source of the funding, and why the trail ends abruptly here, unless you know how to look past the ink. The protocols confirm specific no-fly zones that curiously align with the residences of top government and corporate officials. Before we go further, if this evidence is making you ask tough questions, subscribe to stay ahead of the next discovery. An immediate, unsettling cut to a digitized bank ledger. Thousands of entries scroll past in rapid succession, then stop focusing on a single, massive wire transfer into Project Skywash. The money did not come directly from a government agency, but from a private entity, the Agricultural Preservation Foundation, or APF. This is where the cover-up truly begins. The APF sounds innocuous, civic-minded, maybe even noble, but an investigative deep dive into its structure reveals something far darker. The foundation was incorporated decades ago, yet it has virtually zero public activity, no annual reports, no public grants, no transparent mission statement. It is a shell corporation in the purest sense, created solely to act as a financial buffer. The APF exists purely as a gray zone, untraceable by traditional investigative means. A forensic analysis of the APF's board of directors raises the first red flag. The nominal board is composed not of environmentalists or philanthropists, but of individuals with high-level, decades-long careers in the intelligence community, military logistics, and international resource governance. These weren't philanthropists. These were architects of secrecy. And the key to their operation was hiding in a document that shouldn't exist. The names on the board are common, yet cross-referenced against global intelligence logs, they reveal deep ties to covert operations stretching back to the Cold War era. The investigation now encounters the first piece of evidence that suggests direct human cost and threat, an 8-second snippet of an audio recording, heavily distorted and muffled, sourced from a deep web forum post, claiming to be a former APF logistics employee. The voice is panicked and low, mentioning the containment failure protocol and the phrase, "They can't let anyone know how much is already," before the recording cuts out abruptly. The content is chilling, raising the personal stakes of the investigation immediately. The man's frantic breathing before the cut is perhaps the most visceral piece of proof we've found. The knowledge is harmful. The investigation then focuses on the physical address listed on the incorporation documents for the APF, 2110 Commerce Drive. A quick satellite view reveals not a foundation, office, or a corporate campus, but a massive, windowless, seemingly derelict warehouse surrounded by chain-link fence located in an otherwise unused industrial park miles outside of any major population center. A foundation dedicated to preservation does not operate out of an opaque, concrete tomb. The air around the warehouse is unnaturally still, lacking the normal ambient noise of an operational industrial zone. 2 specific Freedom of Information Act requests concerning high-altitude atmospheric testing were initially approved and logged, confirming the existence of the documentation. However, within weeks, both requests were aggressively reversed, and the documents classified under a newly formed federal agency, the Office of Atmospheric Integrity, or OAI. This new agency was created specifically to manage the informational fallout. The OAI was formed using emergency provisions, bypassing all standard legislative oversight. A side-by-side comparison of the 2 reversed FOIA files is shown, flashing the visual of identical, massive black bars across key sections. This reveals an identical pattern of redaction. The redaction bars were not covering paragraphs of data, but specifically covering proper names and the primary mission statements of specific internal working groups. The pattern confirms centralized command and tactical information control. It's not just an accident of bureaucracy, it is surgical information warfare. Every redaction follows the exact same font and thickness, suggesting a single, highly coordinated digital cleanup effort. The first sign of counteraction, subtle and unnerving, manifests now. Finding the primary investigative file structure on their local hard drive had been subtly corrupted. Not ended, but the timestamps on critical Chapter 1 documents were changed, a minor, almost imperceptible alteration, but proof that the system has been breached. The feeling of being watched intensifies. We found highly specialized, custom-built malware designed specifically to alter file metadata without triggering basic antivirus protocols. This feeling is cemented when the narrator visits the warehouse address of the APF. While circling the perimeter, observing the sheer, desolate scale of the location, an unmarked, nondescript black sports utility vehicle is observed across the street. It sits idling, its windows completely darkened, for over 30 minutes, then drives away quickly and silently as the narrator begins to leave. The silent watchers are now aware. The sheer patience of the surveillance is more unnerving than any direct confrontation. They want us to know they are here. The money trail confirms the intent. The gaps confirm the cover-up. But they made one mistake. The address of Shell Corporation isn't an office. It's a structural anomaly. It's built over something they wanted forgotten. Something physical that proves this isn't just about chemicals, it's about control. Tell me your thoughts on the APF's true mission in the comments below. The camera sweeps low over the industrial park. The focus is fixed on the concrete expanse of the warehouse building, listed as the APF's headquarters. The drone camera ascends, offering a wide, high-angle shot, focusing not on the building's main facade, but on its roof. The sight is unnerving. A massive, rusted, high-gauge ventilation and duct system, clearly designed to move industrial quantities of air, sits unused and oversized on the roof of a building supposedly dedicated to agricultural preservation. This is the first tangible, physical contradiction. The ducts are far too robust for simple warehouse air exchange. They resemble systems built for containing or purging potent chemical runoff. The building itself is simply too large, too reinforced, and too silent for its purported mission. Using municipal blueprints obtained through a separate, obscure channel, the water utility records, according to the foundational engineering plans, the warehouse structure extends 3 stories below ground level, a costly and complex construction detail that makes zero sense for mere storage or administration. The APF isn't a building, it's a capstone. The concrete foundational pillars are 3 times the width required by standard code, suggesting they are supporting far more weight than the single floor above. The investigation pivots from documents to physical entry. Thermal imaging data, displayed in high-contrast blue and orange overlays, confirms the hidden reality. Beneath the warehouse footprint, the radar detects massive, dense concrete reinforcement shells consistent with heavy-duty rail lines and subterranean infrastructure. Not a basement, it is an operational center, hidden in plain sight. The images reveal a network of chambers and rails that could only accommodate the movement and loading of extremely large, sensitive cargo. The focus is on precision and avoidance. The key lies outside the heavily secured perimeter of the main warehouse. Following an old utility map, the narrator locates an abandoned, disguised service tunnel entrance near the property edge, masked by overgrown brush and a pile of condemned pallets. The tunnel was ostensibly built for a decommissioned power line. The camouflage was flawless, designed to deter only casual observers, suggesting they anticipated serious investigation would never reach this level of detail. As we secured the perimeter, the sound was barely audible, a deep, low hum, resonating from beneath the concrete. This building wasn't empty, it was running. The sound design takes over here, the scraping of metal, the labored breathing of the investigator, the rhythmic creak of the door being forced open. Inside, the dust is thick, but the evidence of recent passage is undeniable. Fresh, deep tire tracks consistent with heavy-duty utility vehicles cut through the old dust. Near the entrance, the investigator discovers a single critical artifact, a specific non-North American currency coin and a dark green embroidered patch with an unfamiliar, stylized military insignia. The presence of foreign military context suggests the conspiracy is not merely national, but supranational. The insignia belongs to a highly specialized, non-public research wing of a European defense conglomerate. The exploration of the tunnel is slow burn tension personified. It descends steeply, leading not to power lines, but to the massive, soundproofed infrastructure beneath the warehouse. In a small abandoned maintenance junction, the ultimate physical proof is found, the Archive Zero artifact. It is not large, a heavily protected, moisture-proofed flash drive tucked into a specialized, disconnected piece of aircraft fuel line that was clearly designed to carry something non-standard. The protection suggests the data is either extremely sensitive or extremely harmful if exposed. The immediate reveal of the flash drive's manifest is the dramatic peak of the chapter. Project: Atmospheric Inoculation, Phase 2, Deployment Logistics. The files contained within confirm the operational intent, detailing flight plans, aerosol release schedules, and specific calibration metrics. The flight logs reveal continuous, overlapping patrols across 3 different continents, maintaining a constant presence in the skies. The final, horrifying detail from the flash drive is a digitized map. The map shows the global deployment zones for the atmospheric inoculation. The narrator emphasizes that the zones are not geographically random or clustered near major industrial centers. They correlate precisely with key global agricultural and water resource hubs, the planet's breadbaskets. This changes everything. They weren't trying to cool the planet evenly, they were targeting the foundations of human sustenance. This map changes everything. The deployment wasn't about saving the climate, it was about targeting resources. We now know the what and the how. The next chapter reveals the why, the core secret they've built this entire deception to protect. Share this video now. This information cannot remain hidden. The real mission is not climate. It is fertility and crop destruction, phytotoxicity and soil degradation. The connection is devastatingly clear. The chemical formula is essentially a weaponized combination of systemic disruptors designed for slow, cumulative environmental damage. The true mechanism of the aerosol is revealed. The chemical payload is not solely for atmospheric reflection. It is a complex dual-purpose bioagent. First, it is specifically engineered to function as an endocrine disruptor, targeting reproductive health in mammals. Second, it degrades the soil's mineral absorption capacity, specifically targeting critical cash crops like corn, soy, and wheat, leading to pervasive, slow-acting, nutrient-poor harvests. The goal is not immediate impact, but slow, systemic control. The slow degradation means the public simply sees failing harvests and unexplained health crises, never linking the two to the activity in the skies. The investigation now tackles the identity of them. The APF, Agricultural Preservation Foundation, and the OAI, Office of Atmospheric Integrity, were mere subsidiaries. The documents now clearly tie them to a supranational governing body. Leaked internal meeting minutes confirm this, detailing long-term global food policy and population management initiatives. This body operates under the collective codename, the Guardians. They view themselves not as villains, but as necessary custodians of a global system they believe is on the brink of collapse. The existential evidence solidifies the danger. A complex epidemiological graph is introduced, showing a precise correlation between the start date of Project Skywash deployment and a statistically inexplicable global decline in specific human health metrics that emerged years later. Specifically, a sharp, widespread drop in male and female fertility rates, and a measurable spike in specific autoimmune disorders. This wasn't a side effect of geoengineering. It was the primary, cold-blooded function, and the memo detailing the next phase proves they've already moved on to an even more insidious threat. The data shows the decline is most pronounced in developing nations, precisely where the UN agenda documents predicted the highest resource instability. A key document is displayed, an internal Guardians memo discussing a controlled reset of global demographics and the acceptable attrition rate necessary to stabilize the planet's resource usage for the coming decades. The cynical, calculated language of the memo removes any doubt regarding malicious intent. This is not a mistake or a side effect. This is the plan. One line from the memo is particularly damning. Sustainable long-term management requires temporary but swift reduction in metabolic consumption vectors. The narrator recounts discovering that the investigation has been compromised not subtly, but aggressively. No more change timestamps. A direct, threatening message, perhaps a highly specific internal file codename left visible on their encrypted desktop, or a small, symbolic item left physically in their secure location, confirms that the Guardians know the investigator has reached the final, defining truth of their existence. The point of no return has been passed. The investigator is no longer simply revealing a secret. They are fighting for their immediate physical safety. The threatening message was delivered using a dead drop protocol known only to a few individuals within the former intelligence community, confirming the origin of the threat is highly placed and deeply personal. They are not stopping. And the only way to expose the entire scope is to reveal the immediate aftermath of this realization. On the left side, the bland official press release from the OAI Office of Atmospheric Integrity hits the wire, titled Aggressive Disinformation Campaign Launched Against Climate Integrity, featuring a trusted-sounding official source, confidently debunking the fertility claims using misinterpreted data. A subtle, shaky, real-time drone sighting shows a high-altitude, unmarked jet deploying the heavy aerosol payload right now, its dispersal cloud slowly expanding against the morning sky. The lie is immediate. The operation is perpetual. The press release is a deliberate shield. The aircraft is the ongoing execution of the plan. The conspiracy is so vast that the Guardians do not attempt to suppress the full scope. They strategically reframe it. They permit a controlled amount of information to be dismissed as a fringe theory, using the sheer, unbelievable scale of the operation against the public's perception. The narrative frames the investigator not as a truth teller, but as a dangerous crank. They target the messenger, not the message. They flood the media with conflicting, less believable conspiracy narratives to bury the one that contains real evidence. The investigation moves to the logistics that guarantee the perpetual threat. Documents reveal that the aerosol operation has been intentionally decentralized. The command structure is atomized, the funding is automated through offshore shell systems, and the logistics from Chapter 3 confirm the operation is designed for indefinite continuation, regardless of public exposure or political change. There is no single button to stop it. The supply chain is designed to be self-sustaining, utilizing artificial intelligence routing systems that can operate without direct human oversight for years. The narrator reveals that the immediate response to the threat has been to take extreme security measures. The environment is constantly changing. The tools are constantly encrypted. The investigation is now a fugitive operation, funded by necessity, driven by the impossibility of silence. All communications are routed through antiquated analog systems, reverting to the very secrecy methods the Guardians thought they had made obsolete. A complex engineering document shows that the original patent, Chapter 1, was merely the first phase, designed to condition the public and prepare the planet's systems. The newer plans, codenamed Phase 3, involve a far more subtle, widespread, and far harder to detect biological and chemical agent with a severely delayed effect. The current, visible, heavy aerosol is simply a massive, successful diversion. The conspiracy you can see distracts from the one that has already won. The Phase 3 agent, described in the engineering document, is designed to be environmentally indistinguishable from naturally occurring trace minerals until triggered by a low-frequency radio signal. The final dramatic realization is that the Guardians did not try hard enough to stop the investigation because they knew the current evidence, though terrifyingly real, would eventually be dismissed as too large, too unbelievable, or simply too late to reverse the systemic damage already done. Delayed agent sample recovered from a local city water system, the ultimate tangible image of the unseen threat. The analysis confirms the agent is dormant, waiting for that final signal, which is the terrifying reality we are facing now. They aren't finished. This is the pattern of control. They rely on our disbelief, our comfort, and our willingness to look away when the truth becomes too demanding. The trails are in the sky right now. The patents are real. The agenda is still being executed. The only way to win is to keep watching, keep investigating, and keep refusing to ignore what you see with your own eyes. If the evidence presented here shook you, you understand the necessity of this work. The truth doesn't reveal itself easily, and the forces of secrecy rely on silence. Do not let this information fade. Subscribe right now to ensure you receive the next stage of this investigation. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the Phase 3 revelation. We can only fight the darkness if we stay focused and stay together.